A lot of horror games are coming soon, but only a few truly stand out as the most anticipated. The ones people keep talking about and can't wait to play. Here are the 20 most anticipated horror games everyone can't wait to play. The Occultist feels like a paranormal investigation gone completely wrong, where your only weapon is a mysterious pendulum. The story follows Alan Rebels, a paranormal investigator searching for his missing father on a fog-covered island once used by a cult for disturbing rituals. The gameplay leans heavily into stealth and puzzle solving. You're not really meant to fight back. Instead, you're hiding, sneaking around, and using your abilities to get past whatever's in your way. Puzzles play a big role too. A lot of them tie into occult elements and changes in the environment, so it doesn't just feel like you're doing the same thing over and over. What makes this game interesting is how you interact with the world. Instead of relying on weapons, the pendulum becomes your main tool, letting you reveal hidden clues, manipulate objects, and even affect reality to open new paths or avoid danger.
Face evil. Fear is not an option.
Conditions are not optimal yet, but all the raw ingredients for habitability are here. This world has everything to become humanity's new home.
It's possible.
So we gave it a name. Not for what it is, but for what it will be.
Aphelion is a survival game on the edge of space, where being alone can kill you just as fast as whatever's out there hunting. You play as two astronauts, Arion and Thomas, after their ship crashes on a frozen planet called Persephone. They get separated and injured, and now they just have to survive and find each other again, while something moves beneath the ice. This isn't just about getting off the planet. You're dealing with limited resources, distance between the two characters, and that constant pressure of not knowing what's out there. Gameplay is built around traversal, survival tools, and stealth. There's no real combat here. You're using things like a grappling hook, oxygen management, and scanning tools to move through rough terrain and avoid danger. Movement plays a big part too, with climbing, swinging, and dealing with unstable environments.
But we'll keep your memory alive. Every sacrifice we make matters, and will never be forgotten.
State of Decay 3 is shaping up to be a huge zombie survival game, not because of the story, but because of how deep the systems go. This isn't just fighting zombies, it's about building and managing an entire community where every decision has long-term consequences. Gameplay is all about survival systems. You manage a group of survivors, build and expand your base, gather resources, and deal with threats that constantly evolve. The key mechanic here is permadeath. If a character dies, they're gone for good along with their skills, which makes every decision risky. The world itself is also becoming larger and more connected. From what's been shared, it's moving toward a more seamless open world, where players can create and grow their own communities, shaping how the game unfolds over time rather than following a fixed path. The Blood of Dawnwalker is already getting attention because of the team behind it. This is a new project from former Witcher 3 developers, and you can feel that influence right away. It's set in 14th century Europe, where vampires are no longer hiding and have started taking control. You play as Cohen, someone stuck between being human and something far more dangerous. Gameplay shifts depending on the time of day. During the day, combat is more grounded with sword fighting, directional blocking, and magic. At night, things change completely. You get access to vampire abilities like climbing walls, short-range teleporting, using claws in combat, and feeding to recover health. Combat and progression also reflect that identity split. You can use human skills or embrace darker powers, but leaning too far in one direction can affect story and outcomes. It's less about grinding and more about shaping your character through decisions.
Please. I don't know. How?
I am life. I am death. I am everything in between. I have been watching your little valley. Pestilence.
Perceptum builds its horror around one simple idea. You can't trust your own senses. This game plays tricks on your sight, your hearing, even your sense of what's real and what isn't. The story follows a medium investigating a house where an entire family disappeared without a trace. What starts as a normal case quickly turns into something disturbing as the house itself begins to feel wrong, like it's hiding something just out of sight. What makes this game different is how it plays with perception. Instead of giving you weapons or clear answers, it forces you to rely on unusual tools. A mirror reveals things that shouldn't exist, while closing your eyes lets you hear whispers and sounds from beyond. But doing that also leaves you completely vulnerable. Remothered Red Nun's legacy brings the series back as its final chapter. And this time, it pushes harder into psychological horror with enemies that won't leave you alone. The game follows a mother searching for her missing daughter, but the investigation quickly leads into a decaying estate tied to the Ashman family and a disturbing cult. Gameplay stays true to the series' identity. You are not powerful. Enemies, especially stalkers like the Red Nun, constantly hunt you and react to sound and movement. Instead of fighting, you rely on stealth, hiding, and distraction to survive. There's also a new hypnosis mechanic that lets you uncover hidden memories, reveal secrets, and even change parts of the environment to progress.
The bodies of 4 of the previously reported missing have been found.
The Bornless takes place on a cursed island filled with cult activity, dark rituals, and supernatural forces that feel way beyond human control. The world is built around occult themes and Lovecraftian horror, where every location feels tied to something dangerous and unknown. The game is built around a ritual-based flow. You start by exploring and gathering resources, but once you begin performing rituals, you expose your position and raise the stakes. As the match progresses, everything escalates into a final phase where survival becomes chaotic and unpredictable. Gameplay mixes shooting with supernatural abilities. You can use weapons, but also rely on black magic, summon entities, and use special powers to gain an advantage. It creates a balance between traditional combat and something more unpredictable. Blight Survival takes horror in a different direction by setting it in a brutal medieval world instead of the usual modern or sci-fi settings. You're dropped into a war between two kingdoms where a deadly infection spreads through fallen soldiers and turns them into something much worse. What makes it interesting is the mix of melee combat and extraction-style gameplay. You go into dangerous areas, fight enemies, gather loot, and then decide whether to get out or push deeper for better rewards. That choice always comes with risk, because if you die, you lose everything you collected. Combat feels heavy and deliberate. You manage stamina, time your swings, block or dodge incoming attacks, and react carefully to enemy behavior. It's not about flashy combos, it's about staying alive. Even a small mistake can cost you, especially when facing multiple enemies at once. Bendy the Cage brings the Bendy series back with a darker and more intense tone, shifting away from the usual cartoon-style horror into something that feels more brutal. This time, the focus is on a new character trapped inside the studio, forced to survive in a place where ink creatures roam freely, and nothing feels safe anymore. The game leans into mystery and survival. You're trying to figure out what's going on while dealing with constant danger, and the world itself feels more aggressive compared to previous Bendy games. Gameplay moves toward action survival. You're not completely helpless, you can fight back, but resources are limited, and enemies can overwhelm you fast if you're not careful. Managing supplies, choosing when to engage, and staying aware of your surroundings becomes essential. They Left Us Here is a horror game set on an abandoned space station, where nothing feels right from the very beginning. You wake up alone with no clear memory of what happened, surrounded by silent corridors, flickering lights, and systems that barely function. Gameplay focuses on exploration and problem-solving under pressure. You restore systems, unlock sealed areas, and piece together what happened while navigating tight spaces filled with potential danger. There's no reliable way to fight back, so staying aware and thinking ahead becomes your main advantage. One of the more interesting parts is the station's AI. It tracks what you're doing and reacts to it, which means you can't just move freely without thinking. Simple actions can have consequences later, and sometimes it feels like the system is actively working against you. Control Resonant expands the strange, reality-bending world of Control into something much larger and more unstable. Instead of being confined to a single location, the anomalies now spread outward, affecting entire environments where reality begins to collapse in unpredictable ways. The story still connects to the Control universe, but this time, the situation feels far more chaotic. Supernatural events are no longer contained, and the world around you starts to shift, distort, and break apart as you move through it. Gameplay keeps Remedy's signature mix of action and abilities, but it looks more direct and intense. Movement, positioning, and timing play a bigger role, with powers and combat blending together in faster, more aggressive encounters. With a wider scale and more chaotic environments, Control Resonant pushes the series beyond its original setting, turning it into a larger, more unpredictable experience where nothing feels stable anymore. Dark Mass is a horror game set deep underwater inside a sunken manor, and that setting alone makes it feel different right away. Everything feels slower, heavier, and more claustrophobic compared to typical horror games. The story follows a deep-sea explorer who discovers something hidden beneath a shipwreck. What starts as a normal investigation quickly turns into something disturbing as the place feels wrong, like it's been waiting for someone to find it. Gameplay focuses on exploration and puzzle solving, but the underwater physics change how you move and react. You can't just run or escape easily, and limited visibility adds constant pressure while something unknown stalks you through the halls. With its underwater setting and slow tension, Dark Mass creates a kind of horror that feels more suffocating than loud. It's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Hey, drop me a crowbar. I'm gonna try to get in. I'm hooking up the camera now. Let me know if you're getting her feed.
Behind you! There's something behind you!
I've never seen anything like this before. Who's that? I think I'm not alone down here.
Valor Mortis blends dark fantasy with a twisted version of the Napoleonic War, where the battlefield is no longer just soldiers, it's filled with corrupted, monstrous enemies created by a mysterious plague. You step into the role of a soldier brought back from death, now caught in a war that has turned into something far beyond human conflict. As you push forward, the game slowly reveals what caused the outbreak and why you're still alive. Combat is built around a first-person Souls-like system, so it's slow, heavy, and punishing. Timing your attacks, dodging, and managing stamina are key, while supernatural abilities add another layer to how you fight and survive. With its mix of historical war and dark supernatural elements, Valor Mortis looks like a unique take on horror, especially for players who want something more challenging and intense.
Descent went without complications. The Before you begin contributing, I would first like to share a few words about what we expect of you, and in turn, what you can expect of us. Down here, in the dark, freezing waters of the Arctic, we stand united on the brink of human knowledge. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do of the bottom of the sea. You may discover things down here that clash with your view of the world, things you'd like to dismiss or distance yourself from.
Crathos Deep is a cosmic horror game set beneath the Arctic Ocean, where you explore the darkness using a submarine instead of moving on foot. The setting alone changes everything. You're surrounded by endless water, limited visibility, and the constant pressure of being far below the surface. The game revolves around a missing research facility hidden under the ice. As you investigate, pieces of what happened start to appear through logs, environments, and strange discoveries, slowly revealing that something far more disturbing is buried down there. Gameplay focuses on exploration and tools. You pilot a submarine across large areas, then switch to a drone to access tight spaces, vents, and hidden sections. Crathos Deep leans into atmosphere and discovery, creating a quiet but heavy kind of horror that builds the longer you stay underwater. Carnival Hunt is a horror game set inside a creepy, abandoned carnival. But the twist is, it's all about players going against each other. One person becomes the monster, while the others try to survive as these fragile, wind-up bunnies. Everything is played in first person, so no one really knows what's happening around them. You rely on sound, quick decisions, and teamwork. There are also small tricks like pretending to be dead to avoid the monster, but that doesn't always work. On the other side, the monster is hunting non-stop, collecting energy from players to keep going, and using abilities like teleporting or going invisible, depending on the type. Each match plays out differently depending on how people act, which keeps it unpredictable. Carnival Hunt is less about scripted scares and more about tension between players, where one wrong move can expose everything. Ontos is a sci-fi horror game set inside a strange, isolated facility where reality doesn't behave the way it should. The moment you step in, things already feel off. Environments shift, logic breaks, and nothing stays consistent for long. Gameplay focuses on exploration and solving environmental puzzles, but the twist comes from how the world reacts to you. Rooms can change, paths can loop, and certain actions can alter what you see next, forcing you to constantly question your surroundings. There's no real sense of control or safety. Instead of fighting back, you're trying to understand how the environment works while avoiding whatever is hidden inside it. Ontos leans into psychological and sci-fi horror, creating tension through confusion and unpredictability rather than constant action.
What is existence, really? Surely a question without an answer. Your father thought he knew, and it inspired him to grant wishes.
Who's there? Nightmare. Yes!
That's why all of us are here. You want to understand, to know. Then you have to step beyond the walls surround you. Play your father's game. Push the very limits. Until even reality itself.
Directive 8020 takes the dark picture style and puts it in space. But this time, it feels way more intense. You're dealing with a crew on a colony ship that crashes on a distant planet, and things go bad really fast when an alien starts hunting them. Gameplay still keeps that choice-based style, but now there's more direct control. You're sneaking, hiding, using tools like scanners, and trying to avoid the alien instead of just watching cutscenes. One mistake can get a character killed for good. There's also a new system that lets you go back and change big decisions, which makes it more flexible if you mess up, but the tension is still there if you choose to play without it. Directive 8020 feels like a bigger step for this series. More control, more pressure, and way more paranoia than before.
Those things can change shape.
Don't you ever point that thing at me again.
Scan complete. Subject unidentifiable.
The Mound Omen of Cthulhu goes in a different direction by mixing jungle exploration with full-on Lovecraft horror, where the real danger isn't just monsters, it's losing your mind. The setup follows a group of explorers searching for treasure in a cursed jungle. At first it feels like a risky expedition, but the deeper you go, the more reality starts to break apart, and things stop making sense in ways that feel unsettling. Gameplay is built around short expeditions. You go in, collect loot, complete objectives, and try to get out before things spiral out of control. The longer you stay, the more aggressive the threats become, and your sanity starts dropping fast. It leans more into paranoia than straight-up scares, where one bad decision can ruin everything. That kind of tension makes every run feel unpredictable, especially the deeper you go. Resonant Q is a sci-fi horror game set on a massive orbital ring above a ruined Earth. And right away it feels different because everything revolves around one core idea: energy. The setup puts you in dangerous missions climbing this collapsing megastructure, where strange anomalies and creatures have taken over. As you move deeper, you're not just fighting enemies, you're trying to survive in a place where systems are constantly failing. Gameplay is built around that single energy system. It powers everything: your weapons, abilities, scanning, even your life support. So every action becomes a trade-off. Do you spend energy to fight, or save it so you can escape before everything shuts down? Resonant Q mixes shooter combat with survival pressure in a way that keeps you thinking the whole time. It's not just about aiming and shooting, it's about managing risk every second you're inside that orbital ring. Ill is the kind of horror game that doesn't just try to scare you, it tries to make everything feel real and uncomfortable in a physical way. The game takes place in a dark research fort where something has gone seriously wrong. As you move through it, you start uncovering what happened while dealing with creatures that look and move in really disturbing ways. Gameplay leans into survival. Ammo isn't unlimited, so you can't just shoot everything. You have to manage weapons, check for issues, and decide when to fight or back off. The biggest difference is how enemies react. They don't just fall over, their bodies break apart in real time depending on how you attack them, and that actually changes how they move and behave. Ill feels more raw and unpredictable compared to most horror games. It's not just about surviving, it's about dealing with situations that can get messy and out.